Can DC fans just have one day without drama? Just one. Ever since James Gunn took over DC and decided to reboot the cinematic universe, I knew Batman was going to be a source of contentious debate. He's arguably one of the most popular and well-loved superheroes of all time, and for good reason. He's a versatile character with a lot of different types of adaptations. Because of that, everyone has varying ideas of what the DCU's Batman should look like. That alone would be enough to make this conversation heated, but the situation has only steadily gotten worse since James Gunn took over. It all started back in the summer of 2023 following the release of the Flash movie. It was announced that the director of that film, Andy Muschietti, would be the director of The Brave and the Bold, the flagship film for the DCU Batman. That film heavily featured two versions of Batman, so it makes sense that he would want to make another film based on the same character. But The Flash was a heavily divisive movie to say the least, so this announcement had many fans concerned that this version of the character wasn't going to get a movie worthy of his reputation, and these concerns weren't entirely unfounded. Some believed that this announcement was simply a desperate ploy to get people to see The Flash, but after nearly 3 years, he's still officially attached to direct. The casting of DCU Batman has been another hot-button issue. While there is no official casting as of now, everyone has their own ideas of who should and shouldn't play the Caped Crusader. At the center of all these heated discussions is Brandon Sklenar. Now, while this is a very divisive issue, I personally am in the Sklenar camp. I recently saw him in The Housemaid, and that performance convinced me that he could pull off this character very well. The Housemaid is actually a very entertaining flick, by the way. I highly recommend it. I just see Bruce Wayne here, but I don't think he's the only actor capable of playing Batman, so I have an open mind. Then you have a sizable portion of Batman fans who are colloquially referred to as the Merge Bros, who just want Robert Pattinson's Batman to be merged into the DCU, despite the first film being made as its own thing, not intended to be part of a larger cinematic universe. And while I personally disagree with that idea, I do think there are a few good arguments to support it. The Batman was a critically acclaimed film that was highly successful. People love that version of the character, and they love Robert Pattinson playing him. It also makes more sense in a way to have one cinematic Batman at a time rather than two. That does have the potential to confuse general audiences. Ultimately, what makes me oppose the idea of a merge is that Robert Pattinson's Batman wasn't made to be part of a fantastical world. It's a lot more grounded, similar to the Dark Knight trilogy, though the Batman is a lot more stylized. The biggest reason, however, is that Matt Reeves simply doesn't want to merge, and I think we should all respect that. So the Batman fan base is fractured, to say the least. You have some who want Andy Muschietti to direct it with Brandon Sklenar starring as the main character, some who want Muschietti but not Sklenar, some who want Sklenar but not Muschietti, Merge Bros and or people who just want neither Muschietti or Sklenar. It's just constantly a battlefield online over this. But we got some news this week that added gasoline to that fire. Reports have come out that Christina Hodson, the writer of the Flash movie, is the current writer who's drafting The Brave and the Bold. Now, people were concerned about Andy Muschietti directing, many were outright opposed, but people showed a willingness to give him a chance if he had a solid script. It also helped that he was the creative lead on It, Welcome to Derry, a spin-off series to the It movies, and this series was well received and kind of warmed people up to him directing a Batman movie. But now that the same writer from The Flash is seemingly attached, people are worried the DCU Batman is going to fail. And while I think many fans are overreacting for reasons I'll get into in a second, it's not like the concern is unfounded. The Flash was a heavily divisive movie with a lot of flaws in both direction and with the script. But, to be fair, The Flash may not be the best example of Hodson's work. The Flash was a nightmare of a production. Setting aside the psychotic main star, it got delayed for 5 years because they went through about a dozen different directors and allegedly 45 different writers. The studio also was heavily involved because they were treating the movie less like a story and more as a device to reset the DCEU into some bizarre multiverse saga that the executives wanted. But it's not just the script for The Flash that has people worried. Hodson doesn't have the strongest writing pedigree. She wrote Birds of Prey, which is an okay film, but also wrote the script for the canceled Batgirl movie. The reason Warner Brothers gave for canceling that film was that it didn't live up to their standards, which doesn't paint Hodson's writing capabilities in the best light. Before I advocate for Hodgson and Muschietti, I do want to acknowledge that I get why people are worried. I really do. I don't want the DCU Batman to fail like The Flash did. It'd be one thing if Creature Commandos came out and sucked, or if Clayface wasn't very good, but you cannot have a solid DC cinematic universe without a great Batman at its center. The first thing I would say to help calm people down is that this film is still a ways away. They are nowhere near starting production. It's very much possible that neither of them will even be attached to the project a year from now. The second is that James Gunn is, according to his own words, working very closely with them to make sure it gets done right. Say what you will about James Gunn, but he's better than Jeff Johns and Walter Hamada, the last executives in charge of DC. Gunn is a creative at heart, and even if you don't like his style of writing, you can't deny that his intention is to deliver an emotionally resonant story with developed characters. The DCU Batman movie may not be great, but it won't be from a lack of trying on his part. The last thing I'll say is this. There are great elements from the Flash movie from both a writing and directing standpoint that possibly indicate that the DCU Batman is in the right hands. The scene where Barry Allen talks to Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne is still a heartfelt scene that shows off Bruce's compassion very well, which is an underrated element of his character. The scene where the two Barrys argue in the Batcave is genuinely very well written in my opinion. The scene where Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne uses spaghetti as a visual metaphor for how time travel and the multiverse work is the best explanation for either of those concepts that I've ever seen in a movie. The scene of Barry saying goodbye to his mom in the grocery store is still incredibly effective from an emotional standpoint. Something that I should have mentioned earlier is that Hodson also wrote the Bumblebee movie, which I haven't personally seen, but is generally well regarded. I think most people can agree that the Batman elements from The Flash are the best parts. I love the way Andy Muschietti directs the Batman action scenes personally. While I hate the costume Ben Affleck is wearing, I really enjoy the chase scene overall. It shows off a lot of cool moments. I love how Batman emerges from the flames here and uses his grapple gun to latch onto the vehicle he's chasing, and how he uses the environment to keep up with them. This fight scene with Michael Keaton's Batman is the second best hand-to-hand fight scene for the character, only surpassed by the warehouse action sequence from Batman v Superman. It's appropriately dark while still being able to see what's going on. It's mostly practical, there's no shaky cam or excessive cuts. Batman is quick and efficient. He uses gadgets more than he normally does in other films. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is the first time he's used his batarangs in combat like this. I'm sorry, but this scene is just shot and choreographed very well. Now, I don't say that to invalidate any of your guys' concerns, because I do think there's good reasons to be worried, but I do say all of this to give you hope, even if it is
just a fool's hope.
But at least we can all agree that Jason Momoa as Lobo looks absolutely perfect. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys. What do you think? Are you excited for the DCU Batman? Do you think they should get a new creative team? Or are you willing to give these guys a chance? Whatever you think, let me know down in the comments. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, and as always, take care.